Hello everyone, my name's Alan. Today we're going to be going over problem 8A in our homework. It's the last problem on the second assignment this week in Chapter 7. And for this problem, it wants us to prepare monthly cash budgets for Blue Sports Corporation. So the first thing to look at here when we're looking at a cash budget statement is that there are three main parts to it, really. The first part is our cash receipts. This is going to be any way that the corporation is making money during the month. The second portion is going to be our cash disbursements. This is going to be the ways in which our corporation is dispersing or losing money, I guess you could say, during the month. And then our third section here is financing. And this is going to be a little bit more involved for financing, but that's going to be borrowing or repaying other banks or businesses. So we're going to go ahead and look here. We're going to start out with we're going to first observe that the problem wants us to create a cash budget for 2 months for both January and February for Blue Sports Corporation. That's important to note because each month builds upon itself. So you can't solve for the ending cash balance without having the beginning cash balance, which comes from the ending cash balance of the previous month. So it kind of builds off of itself for each period, in this case for each month. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to start here just line by line. Our beginning cash balance, the problem goes ahead and it tells us that our expected cash balance for the month of January is going to be, it's listed here as $48,400. So the problem just gives us that, and we're not going to know over here the beginning cash balance for February until we solve for January first. Okay, so once we have the beginning cash balance, we're going to go ahead and add our cash receipts. So these are cash receipts are earning money for the company. And so we have a few here. The first one here is collection from customers. Collection from customers is listed here in point 1. It says collections from customers for January is $333,100, and for February is going to be $378,200. So we can just enter both those values for January and February. For notes receivable, we're looking at $18,300 for January, and again that's listed here under point 3. Notes receivable $18,300, and that's for January. And it doesn't list notes receivable for February, so we're going to go ahead and leave that empty. Our homework specifically asks us, instead of leaving it empty, to place a 0 for that value. So we went ahead and did that. We put a 0 in here. The other thing in problem 3, or in point 3, excuse me, is it asks, or it states that proceeds from sale of securities, $5,700, are for the month of February. So it's kind of the opposite here. Our sale of securities is $5,700 for February, and we do not have a value for 0. There were no securities sold for January. So again, we put a 0 there. Okay, the next thing is our total receipts. Our total receipts, we're going to go ahead for each month and we're going to sum all of our cash receipts. So we'll take our collection from customers, we'll add our notes receivable, and we'll add our sale of securities. That'll give us our total receipts for January. And you can do the same thing for February. You'll add these 3 values, and when you do that, you'll end up with $383,900 for February and $351,400 for January. Okay, the next line is our total available cash. In order to get that, we're going to add together our beginning cash balance and our total receipts for the month. So in this case for January, it'll be $48,400, our beginning cash balance. We'll add that to our total receipts of $351,400, which gives us a total available cash balance of $399,800. And again, you'll be able to do this for January, but at this point in time, you won't be able to figure out the total available cash for February because we won't yet have the available balance for for February. So we'll have to wait a little bit to get that. Okay, next thing we're looking at is the second part of our cash budget statement. Those are going to be our cash disbursements. Again, these are this is money that the corporation is dispersing, that it's losing here. So the first thing to note is our purchases. Purchases is listed in our operating budgets for 2017 in our problem. It's listed here on the second line under January for $121,100. Oh, excuse me, I read the wrong line. So it's actually payments for purchases, not our payments for operating budgets. So that's under point 2 here, is our payments for purchases. Normally I would expect that to say payment for purchases here, but I recognize that the problem doesn't give that option and it makes us select purchases here. So payments for purchases are going to be $101,800 for January, and for February it's going to be $141,900 for February. Okay, our next line is salaries. The salaries is listed under our operating budgets for 2017, and it's listed as $83,500 here for January and $82,000 flat for February. For administrative expenses, this one's a little bit different because we have to factor in depreciation. So if we go up here to our operating budgets for 2017 again, we look at administrative expenses, we'll see that it was listed as $71,200 for January. But just under here, the problem states that administrative expenses, we will have to factor in a $1,300 depreciation for each month. So that means we'll have to take our value of $71,200 for January and we'll have to subtract $1,300 from it. So we do that and it's going to go ahead, it's going to give us $69,900. We do the same thing for February. We will take our $74,300 administrative expenses for February, and we will subtract out the depreciation of $1,300 for that month. And that's going to give us a value here on the statement of $73,000. Okay, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Let's see, so the next line here is our selling expenses. At the top, by our operating budgets again. Let's see, I kind of lost my place. Alright, so selling expenses is $79,800, and for February it's $86,300. Again, that can just go right on the statement. We just pull it right off from operating expenses from 2017. Now we have to look at our dividends, another disbursement that we have to factor in for and look for. So our dividends, if we look here, it's going to be under the fourth bullet point under other disbursements. It tells us that February we have a cash dividend of $12,300. So under February we'll put $12,300. For January it doesn't list our corporation as paying dividends in January, so we're just going to put that value as 0 again. Okay, the next line, total disbursements. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add all of our disbursements for each month together. So in this case, total disbursements is going to be our purchases, our salaries, our administrative expenses, our selling expenses, and our dividends, all summed together. And then for January, it's going to give us $335,000. And for February, when we sum up those values for February, it'll give us $395,500. Okay, and the next line here is our excess or deficiency of available cash over disbursements. And the way that we find this value is pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take our total available cash and we're going to subtract our total disbursements. And so what that's going to do is we're going to take $399,800, we'll subtract $335,000, and that'll give us available cash over disbursements of $64,800. And again, you won't be able to find this value for February yet, so we'll have to wait for the next month here. Okay, the next thing we have to look for is part 3 of our statement. That's going to be financing. And financing is important because it gives the company an opportunity to borrow money if it's under its minimum cash balance for the month or for that period. And if it has excess money, it can invest it or it can repay off debt. So we're going to go ahead and look at this problem. Under available cash over disbursements, we're left with $64,800. If we compare that to the problem, it tells us here that the company wants to maintain a minimum cash balance of $61,650. Okay, and that's going to be important because we realize that $64,800, our excess amount, is more than our minimum cash balance. So we actually don't need to borrow any money, which is why borrowings is listed as 0. And the problem doesn't specify that we're investing or paying off debts or anything else, so we're just going to leave repayments as 0 as well. So our ending cash balance is going to be $64,800 for the month of January. Alright, so we're going to take this value and it's going to become the beginning cash balance for the month of February. So those two values are the same here. So 64,800, we can now add that to our total receipts, which we already have. And that'll give us $448,700. Excuse me. Okay, and we can now also find our available cash over disbursements for the month of February as well. Again, we find that just by taking our total available cash, subtracting our total disbursements. In this case, that's going to put us at $53,200. For the disbursement section of our statement for February. And then coming back down to our financing portion, we're going to go ahead and look at that. We have to look and see that $53,200 when compared to our minimum cash balance is under $61,650. So we're going to have to borrow some money to make up the difference, so that way we have at least $61,650 as our ending cash balance for the month. And so the way that we solve that for borrowings is we take $61,650, the minimum cash balance, and we subtract our excess available cash over disbursements. And we see that that our corporation here will need to borrow $8,450 in order to reach its minimum cash balance. And so again, we leave repayments as 0 because the question doesn't specify that anything needs to be repaid. And so that'll leave us with $61,650 in the ending cash balance for the month of February, which does happen to be the minimum cash balance for each month. Alright, so that's how you fill out the cash budget statement. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I hope that this helped.